Imagine waking up to uncollected rubbish, streetlights off, and your library boarded up. This isn't fiction, it's the reality for millions in Britain today. From rural towns to industrial hubs, a financial crisis is sweeping the nation. Is your town safe? Here are 10 councils on the brink. Council 10, Hampshire County Council. You might picture Hampshire as the land of rolling green hills, the historic streets of Winchester, and the ancient New Forest. It is the very picture of English affluence. Yet, beneath this wealthy facade, the bank account is running dry. This council is facing a projected deficit of £354 million. The culprit is not waste, but desperation. The cost of caring for children with special educational needs has exploded, draining the coffers faster than they can be refilled. Picture the idyllic rural schools you see on postcards. Now imagine the school buses that used to take children there sitting idle because the funding for transport has evaporated. By 2027, their financial reserves are predicted to hit zero. If one of the wealthiest counties in the land cannot afford to educate its vulnerable children, who is truly safe? Council 9, Somerset Council. Moving west, we find a region that has officially pressed the panic button. Somerset has declared a financial emergency. The situation is so dire that the government has granted them special permission to do something usually forbidden, selling off physical assets just to pay the electric bill and staff wages. They are staring down a £100 million black hole, created when previous councils merged and revealed a swamp of toxic debt and spiralling social care costs. Walk through the charming tourist towns today and you will notice a disturbing change. Public toilets are locked tight with heavy padlocks. As the sun sets, the streetlights stay dark to save pennies. It is the stark, a physical face of austerity. A county turning off the lights because it can no longer afford the electricity. Council 8, Bradford. Up north in West Yorkshire, a nightmare is unfolding at breakneck speed. In just 12 months, Bradford saw its debt pile shoot up by £132 million, reaching a staggering total of £726 million. They are now in a frantic race against time, initiating a fire sale of property to avoid declaring formal insolvency. The grand Victorian architecture here speaks of a wealthy industrial past, but look closer at the National Science and Media Museum or the local libraries. You will see reduced hours and a creeping sense of decay. Inflation has strangled their regeneration projects, and the cost of social care is bleeding the budget dry. It is a tragedy of lost heritage, where a city known for its grand history is now selling its future just to keep the bailiffs away for one more year. Council 7, Havering. In the outskirts of London, Havering is running on life support. It is the borough most at risk in the entire capital, forced to beg for a £54 million emergency loan just to keep the lights on in 2024, and it gets worse. They need another £88 million for next year. Why? A rapidly ageing population requires expensive care, but historical tax collection has been too low to cover it. The result is visible on the streets of Romford. Streetlights are dimmed to a gloomy twilight to save power, and outside the town hall, the air is thick with anger. Residents are protesting because the council can no longer afford subsidies for disabled transport. It is a borrower's trap, surviving on government loans today to pay for a future that looks increasingly bleak. Council 6, Croydon. If Havering is in trouble, Croydon is the veteran of disaster. This London borough has declared bankruptcy 3 times. It sits under a mountain of toxic debt worth £1.6 billion. Residents have been hammered with a record 15% tax hike previously, and they face another rise of nearly 5% in 2025. The tragedy here is sheer incompetence. The council tried to play property developer, buying the Croydon Park Hotel and investing in a shopping centre renovation. Both failed. Now the hotel is shuttered, and the town centre is scarred by concrete skeletons of projects that never finished. It is a graveyard of ambition where the taxpayers are left to pick up the £1 billion bill for a shopping mall that does not exist. Council 5, Nottingham City Council. They call it the City of Robin Hood, but the legendary outlaw would weep at the state of Nottingham's finances. The council issued a Section 114 notice, effectively declaring bankruptcy, after losing millions on a failed attempt to run its own energy company, Robin Hood Energy. For 2025, they have approved £53 million in brutal cuts and the slashing of 500 jobs. The vibrant heart of the city, the old market square, feels hauntingly quiet. In recent years, Christmas markets and fairs were cancelled, and the fountain stood dry. It is a city that has effectively cancelled fun because the bank account is empty, leaving a cultural void where a thriving community used to be. Council 4, Slough. Slough is facing a liquidation sale unlike anything we have ever seen. With a colossal debt of £760 million, the council has been forced to put almost everything it owns on the market. They aim to sell £600 million worth of assets to pay their creditors. How did it get this bad? They gambled on buying office blocks and cinemas in other cities as speculative investments, and they lost. Look at the futuristic curve of the public library or the local cinema. Practically every public building you see has an invisible "for sale" sign hanging over it. Slough is no longer just a town, it is an estate agent's catalogue, stripping itself of its own infrastructure just to survive the consequences of its gambling. Council 3, Thurrock. This Essex council is the victim of the solar scandal. Thurrock is staring into a black hole worth £500 million, all because of a disastrous gamble on green energy. A single council officer poured hundreds of millions of public money into the solar farm schemes of a businessman who allegedly used the funds to buy private jets and luxury yachts. While he lived the high life, the residents of Thurrock are paying the price. Taxes are rising by 5.12% in 2026, yet the services are crumbling. Picture the irony. Vast fields of solar panels generating power for the grid, while back in the town of Grays, the council cannot even afford to fix the potholes on the high street. They bet on the energy of the future, but they left the present to rot. Council 2, Woking. In the leafy suburbs of Surrey, a small town of just 100,000 people has managed to rack up a debt of £2 billion. Read that again. £2 billion. It is the highest debt per person in the entire United Kingdom. If Woking were a private company, it would have been liquidated years ago. The cause stands tall in the town centre, the Victoria Square skyscrapers. These gleaming towers of glass and steel cost 4 times their original budget. Look up at them. They look modern and prosperous, but in reality, every brick represents a debt that your grandchildren will still be paying off. The government has stepped in with a partial rescue for 2026, but the damage is done. Woking is a monument to financial delusion. Council 1, Birmingham. And finally, the giant has fallen. Birmingham, the largest local authority in all of Europe, has declared itself bankrupt. The scale of this collapse is terrifying. Residents are facing a tax hike of nearly 7.5%, coming on top of a 10% rise the year before. That is an almost 18% increase in just 2 years to pay for mistakes they did not make. The city was crushed by a massive equal pay claim of £760 million and a catastrophic IT system upgrade that wasted another £100 million. The result? A city that looks like Gotham without the Batman. Collection services have been decimated, leaving trash cans overflowing on the streets, while streetlights are dimmed to save power. The second city of the empire is drowning in debt and refuse, a stark warning that if it can happen here, no town in Britain is safe. Is your local council hiding a black hole in its budget? Check your next council tax bill carefully. The price of failure is always paid by you. If you found this breakdown valuable, Hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the economy. I will see you in the next one.